Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40k Tyranids. Now in today's video we're going to be going over the 6 stratagems that have come out with the Tyranids index that was released by the Warhammer community page. So if you weren't aware, you can download the full PDF for the Tyranids index, in full in fact. So yeah, we're going to get onto just the stratagem today, go through the 6 of them, talk about some sort of ways of using these stratagems and if they're actually going to be any good for us Tyranid players. Right, so the first one is rapid regeneration. So this is going to be done in your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase when they are selecting targets for an attack. And what it effectively does is gives our unit a 6+ feel no pain save, and if they're within Synapse, they're going to get a 5+ feel no pain save. So pretty good for a number of reasons. Well, first of all, it's only 1 command point, it's dirt cheap. You're going to be using this mainly on your big bad monsters, because, yeah, if you can get a 5+ feel no pain save on a Synapse monster in particular, or one that is within Synapse range, of course, 1/3 of the wounds are literally going to get shrugged. And even if you use it on units of the, the smaller bugs, it may not be the most beneficial thing against, multi-damage weapons. But if it's just damage 1 weapons, you've still got that shrug, 1/3 shrug for every single model, as providing that they're actually within Synapse. If they're not, it's only a 6+. It's not as useful in that sense. But yeah, there's multi ways of using it, and only 1 command point I think is really cheap. But I would be definitely using it on the bigger monsters. The second one is Death Frenzy. It's also 1 command point, and this one is done in your opponent's fight phase. And they're doing it just after they actually select the target. So effectively, when your models die, they still get to fight, but it's going to be on a 4+. So you roll a dice for every dead model. On a 4+, that model can still fight before being removed off the table. Now there's a slight problem with this stratagem, which is you need to use it before they've actually died, before you've actually lost the models, because as soon as you get targeted, it is when that's the point when you actually need to declare the stratagem and spend a command point. So you kind of have to do a bit of working out, am I going to lose a lot of models? Am I going to lose all the models? If you're not going to lose many, then there's no point using it. But if you do so and you lose models, then yeah, it's going to be good on melee units. I mean, there's all sorts of melee units. This is the Tyranids index. Half, if not more than half of the index is melee. So it's going to be useful for most things anyway. But do remember that you need to roll a 4+, so you've only actually got half of a chance of that model actually fighting. So on the bigger stuff, it's literally 50-50 on the one model units, your monsters, and the smaller stuff is probably better served. Maybe the elite / light infantry. In fact, they're the ones that you probably want to use this on, but you could take that chance on the bigger models as well, I suppose, on a 4+. It's up to you. So the number 3 is Adrenal Surge. This is done in either of the fight phases. So what it is, if you're using this stratagem, it's 2 command points, very expensive, but you're going to be selecting 2 units if they're within Synapse to use this stratagem on. If you want to choose one that isn't within Synapse, then you can only choose 1 unit. Now effectively, if they roll a 5+ to hit, that will score a critical hit as if you've scored a 6 to hit. Now that's going to interact with a few different things, mainly your hyper adaptation detachment ability, because you've got the option there of having lethal hits, precision hits, and what was the other one? Sustain hits. So if you've got those active, that's going to make those interact with a 5+ rather than a 6+. But there's also abilities within the index, at least a codex then, within the index, such as, for example, a Tervagon. A Tervagon will provide a Tervagon unit lethal hits if they're within, I think it's 6 inches, it's an aura. So if they've already got lethal hits, and you can give the hyper adaptation of maybe, I don't know, sustain hits from the actual detachment ability, then a 5+ roll is going to activate both of those lethal hits and sustain hits at the exact same time. So it can really start to stack, but it is 2 command points and it is quite expensive. You want to use it on the Synapse monsters, you want to get it on 2, did I say monsters? You want to use it on the Synapse units, because you may as well get 2 units out of this. If you're paying 2 command points, you don't want to spend it on just 1 unit unless you really have to. Number 4 is Overrun. Effectively, just gives you a consolidation move of 6 inches rather than 3 inches. And if you're not within engagement range after your 6 inches, then you can pretty much go in any direction as if it was a normal move. This 1 command point is okay, but really you're using this to either get onto an objective or get into terrain features behind cover, obscuring terrain, or dense, well, it's not really dense cover anymore, is it? Just woodland, so you're getting the benefits of cover. It's probably the only reason you'd really use this. Maybe the scoring, you know, just getting ground, I guess. But yeah, objectives are the main one. If you can jump onto an objective and take over an objective without objective control, and then when it's your opponent's command phase, they're not going to have that objective to score points with. So it's situational, but it's still there as a worthwhile option. Number 5 is Synaptic Insight. It's 1 command point and it is done in your command phase. So not your opponent's command phase, it is your command phase. You select 2 Tyranid units that are within synapse of your army, and you can select a second hyper adaptation or another hyper adaptation for those 2 units. So if we go to the hyper adaptations for a moment, as we mentioned earlier in the video, you've got 3 options. You've got sustained hits against infantry and swarm, you've got lethal hits against monsters and vehicles, and you've got precision hits against characters. So you can select a second one of those for the units. Now, realistically, if you're going up against an infantry, then you're not going up against a monster. If you're going up against a swarm, you're not going up against a vehicle. So having the sustained hits as well as lethal hits probably isn't going to help you that much. But at the same time, I suppose if you've got an army-wide sustained hits against infantry and swarm, and you've got a unit going up against a monster, even though they're not going to make maximum use of the sustained hits ability because it's only applying to infantry and swarm, you're still giving them the lethal hits against monsters anyway, so you're effectively just giving them another ability for that particular battle round. Then the final one is Endless Swarm, where you can regenerate D3 plus 3 Endless Multitude units, so effectively Termagants, Hormagaunts, and you can do it on 2 units rather than 1. So in 9th edition it was just 1 unit, we're now selecting 2 of them. So there's no real restriction in terms of proper range, but there is a synapse range. As long as they're within synapse of your army somewhere, you're selecting 2 of them to get, on average, you're going to get 5 models back. Because D3 averages 2, and then plus 3, you're averaging 5 back, and you're doing it on 2 different units. Now again, I'm going to pull out the Tervagon here, because I've been focusing on the Tervagon in particular today, because her ability, let me just find it, in the command phase, you can get a friendly Termagant unit within 6, and return D3 plus 3 destroyed Termagants, and that's going to be done in the command phase, very similarly to the Endless Swarm. That's also done in the command phase. So you've got D3 plus 3 from your Tervagon, and then you've got D3 plus 3 from the Endless Multitude stratagem, and that one will be done on 2 units. In fact, can the other one be done on 2 units? Just going to double check that. I don't believe it's an aura. No, it isn't. You're selecting 1, isn't it? So 1 unit can have D3 plus 3 twice, and the other unit will just be D3 plus 3 with the stratagem. But there's still a lot of gaunts coming back, and it's only 1 command point. It's fairly cheap, and again, it happens in the command phase, so that interacts with your objective control, with your scoring of your primary victory points. Also, if you want to be making a charge in your charge phase, it's going to help because there's no restriction in terms of putting models down, apart from not actually getting into engagement range, I don't believe. But I suppose if the unit is already within engagement range, it is, and if it isn't, then it isn't. But it could massively help a charge move when you're bringing this many models back. So that one I definitely think is a decent one. Now out of the 6 stratagems, I definitely rate the Rapid Regeneration for that 5+ Feel No Pain save on Synapse models, and the Endless Swarm one I think is pretty good as well. All of them though are very usable. So yeah, that's the 6 of them, and we're going to be of course testing these out when 10th edition does arise. So that's it from me today. I'm going to be getting on with some... what am I going to be doing? I'm going to be doing some datasheet reviews. Now, we don't know the points just yet, so I can't do a full review of stuff, because if something's really good but it costs 1,000 points, then it isn't really good. So we need to wait on the points to come out before we can start proper hammering down these reviews, but I have started, so yeah, watch this space with that. But yeah, guys, before you leave on your exits, make sure you are liking and subscribing to the channel. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.